Good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining me for my annual State of the University address. As many, if not all of you know by now, I personally find it very difficult to host events on campus without the participation of students from our local partner schools. You know that's what I do, and today is no different. So I'm very delighted to introduce Green Street Academy's 6th grade chorus under the direction of Mr. Joseph Eldridge. Green Street Academy is part of our UMB Cure Scholars Program, and it's always terrific to have students from that school on this campus. In fact, 9 of these choir members are UMB Cure Scholars. They're going to be performing the song Royalty. So take it away.
Strikes against you, I'm trapped in poverty, generations of injustice and inequality. Ancestors changed the world, and though they came in chains, in you the strength it holds lives and still remains. You're mighty and majestic, descendants of kings and queens. Royal blood rolls through your veins, children of the dream. So hold your head up high. Keep reaching no matter what. Know that you can take it, no doubt about it. You're gonna make it your royalty. Your royalty. Not a message from the world, you ain't no thug, you're royalty. Oh, brother, you're king, sister, you're king, children of the dream. If you never been told, it's time for you to know you're royalty. Every day and every hour, stand up tall with pride and power. No matter what people say about you, and never ever doubt you. Keep pushing, give it all you got. Don't stop till you reach the top. So hold your head up. Oh, hold your head up high. Keep reaching, no matter what. No, you can take it, no doubt about it. You're gonna make it. Royalty. Brother, you're king. Brother, you're king. Sister, you're king. Children of the dream. If you've never been told, time for you to know your royalty. Tell them if you
Thank you, Mr. Eldridge. So I get to follow that. Thank you again to the Green Street Academy 6th grade chorus. It's a great way to start my talk. I appreciate it. And thanks to everyone here for taking part in this tradition, for coming together to look back at where the last year has brought us and to look ahead at where we still might go. Now, we have some special guests with us today whom I'm honored to acknowledge. From the University System of Maryland, our Chancellor Robert Corrett and Senior Vice Chancellor Joanne Boffman, Maryland's Secretary of Higher Education, James Fielder, Delegate Nick Mosby with the Baltimore City, with the state of Maryland, and Baltimore City Councilman John Bullock, Eric Costello, and Isaac Schleifer. UMB Foundation trustees, Bill Wood, Hal Chapelier, Patricia Florestano, the Honorable Debbie Russell, Harry Knipp, Carolyn Frankel. From the Greater Baltimore Committee, we have President Don Fry. From the Downtown Partnership, President Kirby Fowler. And from the University of Maryland BIOPARK Board, Dr. David Dalton. From the University of Maryland Medical Center, we have President and CEO Mohan Suntha and Executive Vice President Keith Persinger. Thank you all for being here. This year, I chose the theme, How We Lead, because I think we've seen a deficit of leadership in some quarters. And I think in this vacuum, people crave what they're too often missing: ethical, enlightened, courageous, and compassionate leadership. I believe that's exactly the kind of leadership UMB provides. You'll note the theme isn't why we lead. We know why we lead. We lead because we must. But as to the how, I'll start by proposing how we do not. We don't lead by words, by promises, by being the loudest or brashest voice in the room. We don't lead through arrogance or hubris. We lead through action. We lead by doing, not by saying. We lead by a consuming conviction that our work matters, that science matters, that service matters, that justice matters, that truth matters. People have put their faith in us. They've put their lives and their livelihoods in our hands. They come to us to learn and to be served, because we are Maryland's public health law and human services university. And in that capacity, we have vital responsibilities to the state's 6 million people, its 23 counties, and the city we call home. A not insignificant number of those 6 million people are what we call post-traditional learners. The learner who's of working age, who has a full-time job, maybe some college, sometimes not a degree. The learner who's juggling family and bills, long hours, little time, but who still wants to learn and will sacrifice to do it. In fact, 85% of America's college-going population today is between 25 and 64. Their needs are very different than the students we think of as typical, the ones, it turns out, who aren't so typical after all. Post-traditional learners need instruction that's easy to access. They need a blend of academic and occupational curricula and policies that support the delicate balance they're trying to strike. They need stackable credentials so they don't have to start from scratch if they step out of a program. It's a penalty we level that almost always means the end of the line for these students. Now, as a professional and graduate university, We've been largely insulated from these learners. Our programs are highly regulated. Many have to be. But the thing is, there are many students in this generation who've had these experiences of flexibility, online courses, recorded lectures, flipped classrooms. And because they've had flexibility, they want more of it when they come to us. And in some instances, we can be flexible. Our graduate school is a natural locus for a good deal of this activity. But others are dipping their toes in as well. Cary Law has just launched its online Masters of Science in Law for professionals working in or adjacent to cybersecurity and homeland security. Nursing, pharmacy, and social work are engaging instructional designers to build highly accessible online courses. We need to give these designers the chance to collaborate and share resources. We need to create common standards without intruding on individual disciplines. When I arrived at UMB in 2010, not one of our students was enrolled in a program delivered entirely online. In 3 years' time, we'll have about 420 of these students. Now, that's not lightning speed, and we can do better. And for all those learners out there in front of a computer at midnight with the kids asleep in bed, I think we have to. There's something else we have to do for our students, and that's listen to them when they tell us they want to be meaningfully engaged in innovation and entrepreneurship. They haven't been shy about it. The Student-Run Entrepreneurship and Innovation Network, EIN we call it, hosted its first expo this year. The President's Fellows wrote their white paper this year on how we might encourage and support the risk takers among us, those who dare to try and dare to fail in pursuit of something better. We graduated our second cohort of entrepreneurial fellows who work for a whole year on commercializing a faculty invention. And now we've got something really exciting in the pipeline. This fall, we'll seek approval for a master's program in social entrepreneurship. And once we've gotten that approval from MHEC, groups of students will begin working over time on one social issue that can benefit from a market-based solution, an issue like city food deserts that contribute to health disparities. It's important that students continue the work of those who came before them, because while it would be terrific to solve the world's problems within a couple of years, that's seldom the way it happens. So we're going to work toward continuity from students to students. The students will work with faculty from every school, with local companies, local communities, and fellow entrepreneurs. They'll apply the principles of business and design thinking to find solutions that our civic leaders and neighborhood activists have struggled with for years. And these students will be elbow to elbow with our vibrant community of entrepreneurs and artists in the Lion Brothers building. This is our growing hub for entrepreneurship and home to phase 1 of our Center for Maryland Advanced Ventures, established last year through the University of Maryland Strategic Partnership. That was the legislation that formalized our alliance with our sister institution in College Park. This is where we'll offer services for startups across the university system. Our new Student Innovation Center will engage more of our students in commercializing technologies alongside our faculty. They'll work with the Cary School of Law's IP and Business Law Clinic. They'll work with the I-Corps program at College Park's Clark School of Engineering and with the Clark School's Fischel Institute for Biomedical Devices. They'll work with the College Park Smith School of Business, which already has space in our BIOPARK. Now you see what we're doing, right? We're crafty. We'll draw all these students to Baltimore, where they will see what our amazing people in our amazing city have to offer, and then we've got them. They'll stay here, they'll start their own companies, or help others launch theirs. Remember, we've already got 3 startups in the Lion Brothers building. Surgigyne, co-founded by Dr. Vadim Morozov in our School of Medicine, is developing a uterine electrosurgical device that solves the most challenging aspects of laparoscopic hysterectomy. Living Pharma, started by Dr. Eduardo Davila in our School of Medicine, develops personalized cell therapy that stimulates a patient's immune system to fight cancer. Nanoburnetics was started by Camilo Venegas and Elizabeth Weingartner, two of our PhD students. Their company is developing a more sensitive test for monitoring chronic myeloid leukemia. Together, Camilo and Elizabeth were one of just 10 winning teams in the NIH Nano Startup Challenge in Cancer last year. I mentioned our Center for Maryland Advanced Ventures. It will manage the Maryland Momentum Fund, a new $10 million fund created by the Board of Regents to invest in startups launched by the system's students, by faculty, by staff, and by recent alums. The fund's board is meeting later this month to choose its first round of picks. But this Lyon Brothers building isn't only about university startups. It's about community, too. Our tenant mix in the building reflects our true intent to enrich neighborhoods, not to displace neighbors. One of our tenants, Enterprise Homes, has helped create 14,000 affordable homes in Baltimore City. Another tenant, Baltimore Community Lending, provides loans for affordable housing in underserved city neighborhoods. A small business development center will support community-based companies. And studio space for UMBC's Intermedia and Digital Arts program brings more students into the community, adding to the creative, collaborative mix in this increasingly vibrant neighborhood. And we're thrilled that Scott Plank has seen the potential here as well. He's investing heavily in the Hollins Market neighborhood. His Warhorse real estate firm has done some incredible urban development work right here in Baltimore and frankly across the country. And the Hollins Market community is his next priority project. We're working closely with him to make sure his venture is a success for him, for us, most importantly, for the Southwest Baltimore community, which needs smart development and ethical investment. Our leadership is showing in research as well. Our grant and contract proposal activity has spiked over the last several years. The blue bars below the total proposals line indicate March year-to-date proposals since 2012. You can see our growth since 2014, growth that clearly we're able now to sustain. We're seeing the fruits of this enormous productivity in proposals by our faculty. Through March of this year, we're exceeding 2016 awards by 20% over the same time last year. Most of this growth has been in federal awards, but we've also seen growth in smaller portfolio areas. Corporations and foundations and associations have each seen their dollars climb by more than 20%. Obviously, we're keeping a close eye on NIH and other federal funding, but we're encouraged by the 2017 spending bill passed last week that greenlights a $2 billion increase for NIH and a 5% increase in the federal R&D budget overall. Research is only a part of the good news I want to share today in terms of our budget. You should be assured that the fiscal state of this university is strong. We were delighted to receive from the state nearly $6 million in our 2018 budget to help cover the year one operating costs for HSF3 and $4 million to fund our Center for Maryland Advanced Ventures. Now, we did take a mid-year budget cut in fiscal 2017, almost $2.5 million, which won't be coming back to UMB. But we absorbed the cut without layoffs and without a mid-year tuition hike. We'll secure an additional $6 million next year in indirect cost recovery because of our larger research enterprise and an increase in our rate. That money goes into our base budget, as does $8.4 million in new tuition and fee revenues, which we've generated by rebounding from an enrollment low in 2014, when we dipped under 6,300 students. Our enrollment this year is nearly 6,500, an uptick of more than 3%. We've carved out money for several important initiatives this year, in addition to HSF3 and the Venture Center. $2 million will go to the CTSA partnership with Johns Hopkins, which I'll talk about in a minute. More than $400,000 will go to the Office of Philanthropy, so we can begin building a more robust fundraising enterprise. We've created a $1 million fund to disperse to our schools for initiatives that support key strategic areas like student success, tuition affordability, community engagement, and big ideas ripe for UMB's leadership. We're being aggressive in putting dollars into deferred maintenance. We've added $3 million to the operating budget for this maintenance, which is absolutely essential to our functioning. In a little bit, I'll put a campus map up on the screen, and you'll see purple sites dotting the grid where we urgently need to invest in our aging facilities. Now, there's quite a lot of purple you'll see on that map, and it represents a heavy investment. This is not a treading water budget. It isn't a risk-averse budget. We're letting people spend their money. We've been conservative in our research volume estimates, and even with potential cuts to NIH, to awards or overhead, or a combination of the two. We're confident we can soundly manage. We're confident we can continue to thrive. In this budget, I feel every day the careful but enlightened fiscal management of Chief Business and Financial Officer Dawn Rhodes, who came, fortunately for us, to UMB last summer, and I thank her. So let me talk about HSF3, which comes online next Saturday and will stimulate exciting growth in our research enterprise. The building adds 136,000 square feet for wet and dry labs and core facilities, and at full occupancy, it should generate more than $100 million in research revenues and stimulate $212 million in economic activity in Maryland. The building will allow us to accelerate the pace and enlarge the scope of our discovery. Indeed, the School of Medicine has begun recruiting an impressive roster of internationally known and well-funded investigators who will take a transdisciplinary approach to answering our big science research questions. Questions in cancer, cancer biology, brain science, genome and microbiome sciences, infectious diseases, transplantation, heart and vascular science, and more. We have another opportunity to transform our research enterprise, and that opportunity resides in a partnership with Johns Hopkins University, as we join in an application for a Clinical and Translational Science Award. True to its name, CTSA Awards focus on translating laboratory science into the drugs, devices, and treatments that extend and enrich people's lives. That's what we mean when we say bench-to-bedside research. But that journey from the lab bench to the patient's bedside is long and steep and strewn with obstacles. In fact, it's called the Valley of Death for a reason. And so more than a decade ago, NIH developed a grant program to bridge this valley of death, to improve the translational research process and get more treatments to more patients more quickly. The CTSA program helps universities tackle system-wide problems that choke progress in scientific translation. It makes investigator teams smarter, better predictors of what will work and what will fail. Across the country, 64 medical research institutions have won CTSA grants, Hopkins among them. We haven't been as fortunate, but we are now. Because as Hopkins renews its grant application, we're coming on board. UMB enriches this project through our people and resources, through extensive training and degree programs that complement the CTSA, especially through our collection of schools that Hopkins doesn't have. Some of the health science schools, social work and law, that Hopkins wants as collaborators, because bringing our multidisciplinary expertise increases the application's competitiveness. This collaboration is, in my view, vitally important to the people of Maryland. Together, the University of Maryland medical system and Johns Hopkins Medicine serve 3/4 of the state's citizens. This means we can aggregate patient data from both large hospital systems to ask research questions in a powerful way. Questions about the people we serve and how we care for them. We can link our master's programs so that our students gain broader and deeper expertise. We can combine aspects of our clinical research infrastructure to develop not only higher quality programs, but programs with a larger reach across the state and beyond. It's high time, speaking as a longtime Baltimorean, that Baltimore's two most powerful research institutions, frankly, its two most powerful anchor institutions, forge an alliance around science. It's time we did this for our city, for our state, for our collective prominence as a world-class clinical research institution, and our desire to attain even greater distinction in this regard. And I look forward to updating you on our success. I've been talking a great deal lately about this tight link between research and clinical care, but I want to focus for a moment just on our provision of care, what we're doing to ensure that all of our best science and all of our best practice are deployed on behalf of those who need them the most. This spring, we won a state grant of $1.2 million to expand access to primary and preventative care in Prince George's County, to provide team-based care to patients without a primary care provider and those hardest hit by health disparities, the patients most likely to be admitted or readmitted to the local hospital. We'll expand our hours at the Cheverly Health and Wellness Clinic, operated by our School of Pharmacy. We'll lay in the services of our Wellmobile, operated by the School of Nursing. Our telehealth center will support and follow patients throughout the care process. We'll surround them with a patient-centered team and match them to primary care providers so that they can get the care they need. Now, I don't believe that $1 million in new funding is going to transform healthcare in Prince George's County. I don't. But this is a model that, as we measure and validate, can be replicated often and well and can make a legitimate difference in individual and community health. This can be a model for meeting patients where they are and caring for vulnerable populations. Our School of Dentistry knows something about meeting patients where they are. In the same round of grant funding that expanded our opportunities in Prince George's County, the state awarded a grant to expand a dental program in Cecil County. The money allows West Cecil Health Center to take over operations of the dental school's clinic in Perryville and allows us to maintain the clinic status as a teaching site, hosting predoctoral students and dental hygiene students. The School of Dentistry has found a model that works. They're making it work in communities across the state. Our value, UMB's value, is in our people and in the exceptional care they offer. So if we can partner with functioning healthcare providers who can keep the operations on and the buildings well maintained, we'll be there with our people to make sure patients get the high-quality care they deserve. I think most of you know how deeply I've been touched by the leadership we've shown in community engagement. But we know, of course, that our work in the community can be better, more responsive, more targeted, even than it is today. We've surveyed residents in Southwest Baltimore. We asked for their frank opinions about what we do well and how we can do better. We asked if they've been to the Community Engagement Center and what programs and services would entice them to it. And then we did one better than a survey. We showed up. With our colleagues at the University of Maryland Medical Center, we held a community town hall just last Thursday on our partnership for West Baltimore. That's our joint effort, we and the medical center, to improve health, education, and economic development in our shared community, and to open up better two-way communication with our neighbors. There are a couple of very practical reasons to partner with the medical center. First, it enlarges our capabilities, expands our reach. The medical center touches so many people in the community. And the second reason for our partnership is that, frankly, our neighbors seldom differentiate between the university and the hospital. To them, we're one entity. And we thought, in this regard anyway, why not start acting like it? We had about 100 people join us at Carter Memorial Church last week. They told us about themselves and their families, about the barriers they face, and what we could do to help remove them. For their children, our neighbors want after-school activities, mentoring, and youth development. They want our CURE program, but with cohorts in the hundreds rather than in the dozens. And I want the same. In fact, let me take a quick detour into the CURE program, which you know I like to talk about. We had the scholars' end-of-year ceremony last weekend at the pharmacy school, and the students were showing me the posters. The students, 6th graders, 7th graders, at the annual meeting of the American Association of Cancer Research. It's an international meeting, alongside their more seasoned colleagues. They presented on different kinds of cancer and on the health disparities that can make them and their families and their neighbors so much sicker than other people. And if you want to see a bunch of 11 and 12-year-olds who can stand there and tell you so confidently about liver cancer, bone cancer, thyroid cancer, I know exactly where to send you. You would be amazed. Who wouldn't want that kind of confidence and pride for their children? You know me, I don't mind telling you, I teared up listening to those kids. So in addition to educating their children, what our neighbors want for themselves is simple: jobs. About 180 people have come to the Community Engagement Center for workforce initiatives. So far, we've helped about 25 into jobs, either at UMB or at one of our partners in the community. That's not a great ratio, not yet, but we're working on it. We made a guarantee that anyone in the neighborhood who works with us through the Community Engagement Center and is qualified for a particular UMB job will at least get an interview. We're persuading neighbors to stick with the job search, which we know can be long and frustrating. We're looking at how we can prioritize in our institution local hiring. That's a challenge when almost all of our jobs require a high school degree or more, when almost all require computer skills, and when a glut of applications for most positions in our place means that any deficit in experience or capabilities can easily relegate an application to the no pile. We're working through that. This is part of our learning curve. But you know what else we've learned about community engagement? That it has to be fun, too. This spring, we marked 10,000 visits to the Community Engagement Center since it's opened. It's packed every day, and the activities that prove most popular are those that are just undeniably fun. An exercise class, very important, but disguised as line dancing or Zumba. The community lunches that bring everyone together. Our people, the neighborhood people, with no agenda, just conversation and fellowship. It's important. Spending time with one another is important. Building a community that feels safer, more connected, more understood, it's important. It's hard to measure the efficacy of this kind of programming, yes. But is it hard to feel the benefit? From my point of view, not even a little bit. And I take the fact that we need a bigger, better community engagement center less than 2 years into our effort there as a pretty good indicator that we're making a difference, that we're doing something right, that we're leading. Before I leave the topic of community engagement, I just want to mention that as part of our partnership with the Medical Center, we've launched a website, umpartnershipforwestbaltimore.org. On the site, you'll be able to access a database that links volunteers to service opportunities. You can plug in the days and times you're available, how many hours you can give, and what you're interested in doing. And then when we need people for a service opportunity, maybe we can make a match based on your criteria. Now, we're still building the site, so if you're planning to race out of here today to sign up, and it's not as robust as you like, give us a little time. I do believe that each of us has a critical responsibility in addition to the work we undertake every day, and it is to be an advocate for the work we do every day, to be champions for all the people who need the knowledge we create, the care and service we provide, but who don't have a platform to persuade the powerful that this work is urgently important, that it matters. Last month, UMB gathered together a group of research deans and vice presidents from College Park, Johns Hopkins, UMBC, and Morgan State. For the first time ever, we went to D.C. as a group to lobby our congressional delegation. Together, we stated the case for Maryland's research universities, how they serve the state's people and strengthen our economy. We supported the full spending bill for 2017, and as I mentioned earlier, the omnibus contains a $2 billion increase to the NIH budget, for which we're grateful. We advocated a rejection of the 2018 budget proposal put forth by President Trump, which would decimate our research dollars and jeopardize financial aid for our very neediest students. We advocated a higher education exemption from President Trump's proposed cap on H-1B visas. We know our universities are strengthened by the contributions of our international scholars and faculty, and visa caps would dramatically inhibit our ability to compete for the world's very best talent. We stated plainly what the Trump administration's proposed budget would mean to a state like Maryland, to our federal workforce, and to our students trying to find a place within it, what it would mean to our tax base, to our research capacity, and our ability to grow Maryland's innovation economy. At the state level, this year's General Assembly session was a busy one for UMB's faculty and students who testified on dozens of bills that impinge on our work: food security, cybersecurity, pretrial release and bail reform, overdose prevention, over-the-counter contraception, school suspensions and expulsions for the state's youngest learners. In our first ever Interprofessional Education Day in Annapolis, more than 20 students shared with lawmakers how IPE makes them better, more effective practitioners, and why students across the university system need more opportunities to learn interprofessionally. I was with them, I was proud of them. I thank everyone who contributed their voices to important issues this year and led the way in advocacy for those who could not. So what do we need to lead? People are the answer, of course. They always are. Our faculty, our staff, our students. And I firmly believe that to keep getting the great students we want, we have to get tuition under control. I talked about tuition affordability in last year's State of the University address. And since then, we've begun working to drill down into the cost of attendance, financial aid awards, work and family contributions, and student debt loads. We'll analyze this data by race, ethnicity, and income. We'll benchmark our data against a peer group, and we intend within a year to have affordability metrics that we must work toward with all the resources we have. Of course, students don't pick their college on cost alone. Reputation, location, and program fit are critical. But I maintain that the student experience will start taking on much more significance if it hasn't already. Students don't stop valuing an enriching and engaging experience when they turn 22. It's not simply an undergraduate thing, though it's been branded that way. When I arrived back at UMB in 2010, our campus center had opened. It was the very first building at UMB that was a truly university-wide building, striking one small blow to a tradition of silos. I asked my colleagues to program the center with events and activities that would draw students from all of the schools. We didn't know if it would work. We'd never tried it before. And from the moment we began offering collaborative programs, everyone was fully subscribed. Every leadership program, every cultural program, every service program. And now it's time to bring these co-curricular activities fully into the curriculum. Our students are asking, for example, for a student-run interprofessional clinic. They're asking for programs in health, poverty, and justice, taught on-site at the Community Engagement Center. They came to us with the idea for our social entrepreneurship program, and they championed the Student Innovation Center from the start. We need to meet our students where they already are, and believe me, they have no qualms about leading us into the future. I imagine this applies not only to students. I imagine there are junior faculty who want to be more interdisciplinary, who want to be more civically engaged, who want to be more entrepreneurial. So we need to value these things more in our promotion and tenure process. Of course, we recognize the challenge in taking faculty away from their more traditional work. We recognize it. But we must make some distance from this notion in American academia that anything extra comes at a faculty member's own peril. When I was a junior faculty member at UCSF, they told me to just say no to everything. That's not the future. And UMB is perfectly positioned to blaze a new path. Engaging and retaining great people was the point of the campus climate survey we conducted last year. We wanted to assess employees' perception of UMB's inclusiveness, diversity, and safety. We wanted to gauge your confidence in this university and the extent to which you feel you have input into decision-making. We wanted you to take on our institutional values. The survey isn't a scorecard. It's not pass-fail. We did it as a means of establishing a baseline so that we can gauge our direction over time. Are we doing better or worse? It's to shape our interventions that we will design together and drive an improvement process that enhances our daily work experience. I've asked the Diversity Advisory Council to look specifically at the diversity inclusion indicators and recommend ways that we can improve campus climate in these domains. We're going to discuss these results and recommendations at my quarterly Q&A on June 19th, and I invite all of you to join me. I don't believe that the experience I've been talking about, the student experience, the faculty experience, the staff experience, can be entirely divorced from our physical environment. We finalized our facilities master plan this year, a plan for the next 10 years or more. It's a plan now before the Board of Regents that seeks to enhance our connections to one another, to our campus, and to the city beyond it. We have a chance to make our campus and the neighborhoods around us a vibrant, close community, an invested community. And that is our intention. I want to show you just a few slides of our plans. Here's UMB. The sites in red are mostly UMB owned to the north, and they show just how much revitalization is possible on that end of campus. That's where our land bank is. That's where we need to grow. And with several large development sites available, there's great opportunity to do just that. But we're not neglecting our existing facilities. Now here's the slide I mentioned earlier, where you can see in purple just how much of our campus needs renewal. It's a priority for us and for our budget. The plan provides spaces where students and faculty from all of our schools can interact more easily, more frequently, more effectively. For a university that prides itself on interprofessionalism, I consider this essential. UMB is transit-rich, but we need better connectivity to and among various modes of transportation, the light rail, the metro, the bus routes that serve our campus. The MTA Baltimore link, which replaces the now defunct Red Line, will run east-west on several campus streets. An improved bicycle infrastructure is also important to us. We need more bike share locations and dedicated bike lanes, largely north-south, that improve mobility and protect safety. We need sidewalk bump outs at intersections, painted crosswalks, treed sidewalks, streets that are cool and inviting. Doesn't sound like us now, right? Open green spaces where you can relax. This is a dense urban campus, hard to race through, and we have to make it so you shouldn't want to. What we know for certain about UMB is that when you influence the campus, you influence the city. That's the nature of our campus. Our boundaries are not firm. Our borders are porous. And everything we do has implications somewhere else. And so this plan looks to embrace the communities surrounding us. The BIOPARK to our west, downtown to our east. Downtown is now the fastest growing residential neighborhood in Baltimore City. But there's a physical gap in development between the heart of downtown, let's say Charles Street, and our campus. We need to knit these two communities together by teaming with the city, with private developers and nonprofits. On the right-hand side of the slide, the third arrow down, that's Baltimore Street, threading all the way through to the BIOPARK. Baltimore Street is envisioned as a main gateway to campus, a beautiful, identifiable entrance. We need stronger, safer connections to Lexington Market, to the Bromo Art District, to Metro West on our north side, to the Market Center on our east, and to communities west of Martin Luther King. I'm standing here before you, and I've never been as confident as I am right now about the potential of our West Side neighborhood. I believe that together we can make good on this promise of revitalization, that we can invite in and sustain housing, retail, art, culture, entertainment, that we really can make this a place where our students and faculty and staff and friends want to be. You know, it's hard to build community on a 9-to-5 schedule. Community comes from living, learning, and working together, having fun together. And that's why I say it's not only this campus that can be transformed, it's the community. Look at this corner of Lexington and Green. You know it. We own most of these properties. Now look at what we envision. Look at this corner of Baltimore Street and Martin Luther King with the blank and frankly somewhat foreboding MSTF facade to the left. It was constructed at a time in UMB's past, here's a little history, when the prevailing philosophy was to have all buildings connected by pedestrian bridges, meaning there would have been no one from the UMB community on the sidewalks. Some of you may like that, but you think about that. Think about how this building and others, and you've heard me say this before, turn their back in a way on our neighbors. This is how it could look. You can see the beautiful HSF3 Plaza coming up in the lower right-hand corner. An intersection like this can be a powerful statement for us that exciting things are happening at UMB and that we invite our community to be a part of them, like the kids who came here and sang. Look at our campus today. Now look at what it could be. Of course, buildings alone don't make a great university. And so we'd be wise to invest in the ideas that reside within them, the bold and daring ideas, the ideas that accumulate to breakthrough science and life-changing service. This past January, the deans, our wonderful deans at UMB and at College Park, came together for a day to discuss the big ideas that together we could bring to life. We wanted to find those intersections of expertise and resources where the fires of creativity and collaboration spark. This year's Dean's Retreat was modeled on the one we convened back in 2014, when the partnership between our two universities was a little newer. It was there that we first hatched a plan to collaborate in sports science. That proposal has evolved to the Center for Sports Medicine, Health, and Human Performance, now taking shape in the College Park Cole Fieldhouse footprint. The center is deploying our expertise in traumatic brain injury, how to prevent it, and how to speed recovery. It was at the 2014 Dean's Retreat that we talked about human trafficking, sadly prevalent in Prince George's County. That conversation turned into the SAFE Center for Human Trafficking Survivors, which blends survivor services with research and advocacy aimed at ending this horrific crime. And so as we look at the proposals coming in now from our January retreat, we know that whatever the top picks turn out to be, they stand a good chance of becoming operative. A novel approach to neurodegenerative research, a center to prevent and treat opioid abuse, a cybersecurity institute for health informatics, a program to explore and replicate effective policing practices, new approaches to infectious disease detection and prevention, a program applying computational analysis to problems of clinical significance, the provision of support services to children and families in under-resourced schools. This dean's exercise actually mirrors one we've undertaken right here at UMB, bringing our schools together around our own big ideas that play to our collective strengths, but that need collaboration and commitment and money. Addiction research, education, and treatment to deal with an overwhelming epidemic locally and nationally. Pain management, improvement in transitions of care, solving problems endemic in our cities, drug design, development, and manufacturing, preventative health and lifestyle modifications, cures and therapeutics for the areas in which we have deep expertise. It's still very early in the process. We don't know which of these ideas, or maybe some others entirely, will rise to the top. But if we can come together as a university around 2, 3, 4 of these big initiatives, if we can entice our alumni, friends, and partners to support them, to give their money to something they care deeply about, maybe something that affects them personally, then I guarantee you we'll be able to lead here. Without doubt, we're at a critical juncture right now. Philanthropy will be a significant priority going forward. You know as well as I that we're not likely to see a spike in state or federal support. The one elastic, accessible, cost-effective form of revenue building is philanthropy. And this is where we'll focus. I thank our Chief Philanthropy Officer, Tom Sullivan, who came on board last summer, for leading this effort, and I thank all of the Chief Development Officers in their schools and their staffs, and I thank our deans who share in this imperative. The fact is, we haven't told the story of this university often enough or broadly enough. We haven't told people how powerful we are, how effective, how innovative, how compassionate and vital. Now maybe that's part of the quiet leadership approach we take to our work, the fact that we lead through action, not through words. But I know we need to be a little louder now, a lot louder. We need to tell the story of UMB to our 74,000 living alumni, to our friends, and in the centers of wealth, power, and influence in Maryland and the nation, as well as within the communities we're a part of. We're gearing up right now for a major multi-hundred-million-dollar campaign, which we'll formally announce this fall. Earlier, I mentioned a $425,000 line item in our budget for philanthropy. This is going to help our philanthropy office support that campaign by refining its processes and procedures and expand its staff so that we're ready for a successful campaign. As you know, we wrapped up a scholarship matching program last year. The program created or enlarged 265 endowments and generated nearly $15 million in new money for our students, which is wonderful. But the campaign we'll announce soon will far eclipse that number. We'll also add a significant number of newly endowed professorships and endowed laboratories. The campaign will support those special multidisciplinary projects I just mentioned, the big ideas that consolidate our existing expertise and assets. This is what our endowment looked like at the beginning of this calendar year. You can see that student aid is a huge priority for our donors. That's welcome and it's not unusual, especially given that many of our alumni especially understand exactly what kind of debt our students are graduating with today. All of these areas are crucial to our success, and they'll all get attention. I'll be frank, this endowment figure isn't good enough. If you look at our peer institutions, UVA, UNC, Pitt, UCSF, they tower over us. Now, the size of their philanthropy offices also towers over ours. But the point is that we need to demonstrate to our alumni and friends why giving to UMB is the smartest thing they can do if they want a meaningful return on their investment. We have to show our value. And here's why. Here are some examples of what philanthropy has enabled at UMB. William and Joanne Conway and their Bedford Falls Foundation have given 2 transformative gifts to the School of Nursing. The first gift of $5.2 million is the largest in the School of Nursing's history, providing full scholarship support over 5 years for 157 students pursuing a Bachelor of Science in Nursing. As Maryland faces a crippling shortage of nurses And as many nurses find they can't get a job without a BSN, this gift is absolutely vital. The couple's second gift of an additional $2 million will support students pursuing advanced degrees, those committed to careers in training the next generation of nurses and to providing primary care in areas of need. Ellen Yankelo, member of our foundation board, has recently contributed $200,000 to the School of Pharmacy. Her gift was then matched by an anonymous donor and the UMB Foundation, bringing the total gift to $500,000. The money supports a scholar in health outcomes fellowship, which Dr. Yankelo established to improve comprehensive pharmacy care, and it underwrites a full year of tuition for a student in the school's regulatory science program or its pharmacometrics program, disciplines central to assuring drug safety and efficacy and to influencing key drug development decisions. Meg Woodside and the Woodside Foundation have given and committed more than $200,000 to the School of Social Work to establish and grow the school's financial social work initiative, which encompasses education, research, and outreach in areas like credit counseling, gambling addiction, reducing homelessness. Again, seeded with Mrs. Woodside's gift, the program has grown into one of national significance, and our School of Social Work is now a key leader in one of the profession's 12 grand challenges of social work, building financial capacity for all. Fred Smith and Venice Petarakis have given $1.5 million to the School of Dentistry, establishing the school's very first endowed professorship. It's a gift that will help the Department of Oral and Maxillofacial Surgery burnish an international reputation in groundbreaking surgical techniques and clinical research and adopt new training methods for the next generation of oral surgeons. The couple's generosity has, again, inspired their fellow School of Dentistry alumni and friends to establish a second endowed professorship. Over the years, Peter Angelos has contributed nearly $10 million to the School of Medicine. He's established endowed professorships in surgery and in entrepreneurial sciences, the latter of which enables a biomedical engineer to be embedded in the Department of Surgery and rapidly commercialize innovative ideas for treatments and devices. Mr. Angelos has also pledged leadership funding to launch a multidisciplinary center for patients the world over with advanced lung disease and cancer. The center will offer patients immediate and effortless access to all the specialists needed for treatment and will provide support for patients and their families as they travel to and from Baltimore for care. When we think of the law school's transformational gifts, it's rather hard not to think of the Carey family, whose $30 million gift named the school and has underwritten student and faculty recruitment, research, and program development. But here again is how philanthropy catalyzes a culture of giving. With his landmark gift, William Carey established the Carey Challenge to stimulate additional philanthropy for the law school. The first principal gift toward that challenge was $1 million, given by Elizabeth Moser to establish an ethics initiative at the law school to train lawyers who can confront and solve ethical problems encountered in the legal profession. And Mrs. Moser included a matching component in her own gift, which keeps the cycle of philanthropy going. Now, I want to show you, at least by one measure, how all of our effort and expertise, all of the generosity of our friends, I want to show you what it's wrought. Now, you know, at least some of you know, that I say that people put too much stock in rankings, particularly the rankings of a well-known for-profit magazine. Yeah, I often say that the methodology is flawed. And that's all true, unless you get some results like these. Look, I am a hypocrite, and I will live with it. In the just released U.S. News and World Report rankings of the nation's graduate schools, our School of Pharmacy is ranked 9th nationally. Our School of Social Work is number 17. Our School of Medicine is number 16 among public medical schools. Our Carey School of Law has 2 specialties in the top 10. The number 2 health law program nationally. The number 7 clinical training program. Environmental law is number 14. And the Carey School's part-time JD program is number 4. Our School of Nursing has 2 degrees in the top 10 nationally. The Master's and the DNP. 6 of its specialties landed this year in the top 10. By the way, not every program is ranked each year, so I'm just talking about this year, including the number 1 clinical nurse leader program and the number 1 informatics program nationally. And while dentistry doesn't get ranked by U.S. News and World Report, some would say fortunately, our School of Dentistry is number 7 among public dental schools in NIH funding. Ladies and gentlemen, this is how we lead. This is how you lead in educating the next generation of professionals and scholars who will expand what we know, reframe what we expect, and revolutionize what we believe is possible. You lead in research at the bench and in the field. With high courage and deep compassion, you lead in service to patients and clients. You lead by modeling partnership with one another, with our sister institutions of higher education, and with partners in care and service. You lead by embracing our neighbors who confront grave challenges, challenges that we must and do take on as our own. I am privileged every day, to hear from the people of this city and state, from those in positions of great power to those in positions of great need. And they tell me that UMB is making change, that UMB is doing good, that UMB is leading in the ways that truly matter. I regret only that you don't hear those words as often as I do. But I am again this year privileged to tell the story of your work, of your leadership, and for that privilege, I thank you.